Tired of the same marketing advice that goes absolutely nowhere? If you're looking for real opportunities like book fairs, conferences, and awards that actually move the needle, this episode's for you. We're digging into where the best author opportunities are hiding and how to take advantage of them right now. Today I'm joined by Angela Yuriko Smith, award-winning author, the president of the Horror Writers Association, and the powerhouse behind Authortunities, one of the most valuable newsletters for authors looking to grow their platform through strategic visibility. Whether it's finding the right awards, getting into events, or just staying ahead of the curve, Angela's got a radar for what matters. And today, she's pulling back the curtain. Without any further ado, welcome my friend here to the podcast for the first time, and gosh, long time overdue, Angela Yuriko Smith. How you doing, Angela?
So I just would keep listening to what you said about the Substack because I just want to be like, oh, yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Thank you. Awesome.
Very good. All right, well, let's start it out simple here. What exactly is Authortunities, and why did you start it?
Okay. Authortunities, as you just said, is the best newsletter in the world. That's what I think I heard. But it's the Substack newsletter that I have. And I started it in the worst possible way with a page. Remember when we used to do the page of paper on a clipboard, and that was our signups for our book signings? That's where all my emails came from. There was 400 of them. I'd never talked to them. I had been gathering that newsletter or that email list for about probably 10 years. And I decided to start a Substack because, incredibly smart people like yourself had been saying I should do that. Not necessarily Substack, but just a newsletter list. Started the newsletter list, those 400, I'm going to say probably dead addresses at that point. And today, it just kind of exploded. Now I think there's about 4,000, which is just kind of going to the whole power of, and they're pretty much from Substack, from sharing that address and say like my email signatures, not a lot of aggressive marketing with that. But it's a great platform. It grows itself. So it just kind of happened like that. How the newsletter got started with the topic, which is a lot of curated, now it's like a cohort lesson and it's curated calendar newsletter content, like all the author opportunities or authortunities that I can find. That started really just because I didn't know what else to write about. I didn't want to write about my writing process or what I was having for breakfast when I was writing fiction or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
I just didn't think my life was that interesting. So I was like, I used to keep the community calendar at the newspapers where I work. I did a community calendar for writers. Somebody might like that. So, and flash forward to now, I daily go, wow, that really worked. Totally, that's awesome. I love it. It's my favorite thing to write now every week.
Yeah, I look forward to every single one of the broadcasts you send out there because it's all value packed. So let's go ahead and discuss like what people get within there because you have a ton of author opportunities in there. So you track a
Yeah.
huge number of events, awards, opportunities for authors. How do you vet what's actually worth an author's time and what's not worth their time?
A lot of I'll get it from like say Duosuma, which I love Duosuma. If it's up there, then I can go look at the ratings of whatever the submission call is. So I can tell if this is a super new market. I can tell if they've had issues or not because all the stats are there. I go through word of mouth a lot. I have a lot of newsletter subscriptions, probably way too many, which is why my email is overflowing. And if it's an open mic or something that I want to include in there, I'll actually go to that event and check it out myself a time or two to make sure it's not unfriendly or it's going to be cool. Nothing weird is going to happen. And then if I kind of feel like, oh, it's pretty good for your average person, then I'll put it in.
Are there ever any opportunities that you look at and go, nah, hard pass? And if so, what does that typically look like?
There was an open mic I'd gone to, which was talking about how it's very open, very friendly to everybody. But when I went in there, I kind of liked it, but it was a little bit extreme on we are artists and we should all be tripping on mushrooms at all times. And the freakier, the better. And let's get our freak on, and I was like, you know what? Nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with it, but I don't think my average poet friend wants to maybe be exposed to that. So I try to stick into kind of like a PG mid-range
Mhm.
level with those things for what I'm going to include. If I hear something about publisher, maybe as through the grapevine that a publisher is maybe not being on the up and up, uh, we'll go check it out, try to do a little research, and then I might not include it. And that's happened a couple times. And
Yeah.
it's usually for something like hate speech, something like
Mhm.
that. It has to be pretty extreme for me to not include it if it's a good market.
Gotcha. Yeah, hate speech makes sense, especially, we've got
Yeah,
enough of
yeah,
that in the world right now. We want to find
yeah,
opportunities that don't make us feel small or throw us in
yeah,
the bucket full of
exactly.
crabs. So, for authors on a tight budget, where do you recommend they start with real world book promotion?
To say community. I have recently been learning about community this past year. I started as I was walking into the Horror Writers Association. I wanted to look at it's a community, right? And so I wanted to look at what makes a healthy community. And it turns out there's a science to it. Just a few little things like don't have a bunch of rules when you come in because if you like come into a party and don't eat more than three things off the buffet, flush after you use the toilet, don't talk about this thing, you'd feel unwelcome. And so that sets you up for having an unwelcome community. But in the process of learning about community, I also started realizing a few things. And one is, doesn't matter how many social media followers you have. You could have 100,000, 200,000. If they're not engaged with you, it doesn't matter. And social media platforms make it hard to be engaged with you. They'll actually, you know how it is. I mean, you've talked all about this before, so I don't need to go over it too much. But it's very hard to make any traction on regular social media. And then to
Yep.
pay a lot of things, you really have to be smart. You have to read your books. I'm going to say that you don't just want to walk into and throw money at, say, Facebook ads
Mhm.
or Amazon ads because you could get in a deep hole. So, and time. There's also the time factor because I really would rather write things than spend all my days trying to figure out what is the perfect post, what time should I post it? Should it be on Twitter and Instagram? Should I cross post them? Do I have to have an original photo for everything? It's an insane amount of input on that kind of stuff. And most of it, I mean, I feel like people are just making it up. A lot of it's like, you know what I think? And there's no basis necessarily for maybe why it works to post on Twitter, I'm sorry, X at 2 o'clock on Sundays, but never during the full moon. Things like that.
Yeah.
So community though.
Mhm.
So I started a community. I have 300 people in it.
Wow.
They community shares community. It's like the all ships rise thing. I
Mhm.
share your thing, you share my thing. And so I'm seeing first time authors go get the little orange banner, the bestseller banner on Amazon and stuff. First time, no following, no social media following at all. But it's the word of mouth and it's the relationship and the connection. And so going forward, especially as AI comes into play, I mean, well, it's input. It's not coming into play. It's done here playing.
Yeah.
And it's that human element that's so valuable now. And so, so an AI can make something perfect and it's great and it's very helpful, I think, but it still doesn't replace this relationship, our friendship,
So true.
person to person. So that is what I'm looking at for marketing now. And that happens through things like your newsletter platform. You're creating a community and a relationship with your readers. You can actually start a community or Discord or whatever platform you want. I use Mighty Networks. And that community, I'm just seeing huge traction. And I'm going to say 300 people as a social media following, I would say is terrible. If you'd asked me like 3 years ago, I have 300 people on social media. Oh, hey, and I'm going to try to look polite about it. Today, though, I'm going to be impressed if they're actually interacting. And that's kind of the difference. In community, it's people who know you. And so that's why my entire trajectory has changed towards going to community, but also reaching the reader and forming that relationship
Mhm.
firsthand. So the book I'm coming out with, I'm created a cohort to go with it. So we're actually going to walk through the sections of the book together as a cohort, as my book launch, where before my book launch might have been doing a YouTube video, and I've invited some friends, and that's it. That's as far as I'm going. And sharing, on social media.
I love the fact you bring up community, and it's a huge thing I try to preach to a lot of authors out there, because if you just rely on the platforms to sell the books for you, the problem is you're just sharecropping. So as soon
Mhm.
as that reader has bought your book, transaction done. That's it. You have no more
Yeah.
say. You have no more direct relationship with them. And community is the thing that makes a huge difference. And I'm so glad you said it. Let me shift gears though. I want to go into something else when it comes to marketing and promoting. It's something I've talked about extensively. It's awards. What should indie
Mhm.
authors look for in legitimate contests, and what are the red flags they need to be aware of?
Well, the first I think is anybody can run a contest. And so you want to look at what that contest takes from you. What is the ask? So if it's asking for you to put in a bunch of money, but you're not getting anything but a potential award at some point that maybe even can look pretty cool. You can do graphics, you can do a very prestigious sounding name, but you really do need to look at seeing where this is going. And I'm not trying to diss brand new awards at all, because there's some great ones that are just starting out. But that's the first thing to look is, what are they asking for? Are they asking me to put in $125 to submit my poem, and I may or may not win? And like, remember that contest where everybody won, but they had to buy a really expensive book? I mean, this is like in the 80s. You had to buy the expensive book, and everybody's going to buy it. $300 poetry anthology. Everybody won, though, so that everybody would buy a $300 poetry anthology. So that's what I mean by looking at, what are you getting for this? What are they asking? And then what are you getting? I'm not saying don't pay for things though, because like Book Life has a great contest. Yeah, and I pay $125 to enter my books,
Mm-hmm.
but I get that review back. Doesn't mean it's going to be a good review. It could be a bad review. I should be submitting a good book, but I'm getting something back that's invaluable. That social proof of that review. So I think that's a big thing for me.
It's really cool. I could go on and on about awards. Are there any ones off the top of your head that you have seen the best value and the best return on investment?
Well, I could say I've got a couple of Bram Stokers over there that I'll say have given me a lot of value, and I paid nothing to enter those,
Yeah,
just
atta
to
girl.
have a good book. Yeah, so, and they have been pretty phenomenal. I think when you do enter the prestige, like the more literary awards, like Locus, you're not going to get asked for a fee. If you do, that might not be actual programs, so you have to watch out for fishers and scammers like that.
Yep.
But I think those are really good. And a lot of times that again comes to building relationships and community though. You're not going to be able to just ship your book off to Locus and have nothing to do with anybody in that community or Horror Writers Association or anything. It is getting to know people, and then they want to read your book. And that's the key. You have to get people to read your book to get the awards. So
Gotcha.
relationship. Every answer to every question today. Relationship,
Relationship,
community. That's it.
networking. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of relationships, probably one of the best ways to build relationships and connect with other authors are going to be book fairs and conferences, but they can feel
hmm
overwhelming to some of us. How can authors prepare to get the most out of these events, both in person and virtual?
There is, well, I think first recognize, don't let yourself fall into FOMO. And I've done that. And I've gone to conferences where I didn't eat the entire time. I tried to hit every single thing, every single networking ability. You know what I mean? Just like,
Wow.
I can tend to do that. That was my first StokerCon, and I think I had a salad like the entire time. You know,
Oh
Also, it's because
no.
I'm cheap. I'm cheap and I don't like to buy hotel food. Okay, so I have to admit that part of it too. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily all FOMO.
You'd probably do the same
But
thing my wife and I do. You arrive in the town, you go to the nearest grocery store, you load up, and then you stock it
yes,
over in your hotel. Yeah.
yeah, you can live really well on nuts over the weekend. Okay, nuts and bottled water, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so it is that I think is a big one. Be strategic. You don't have to go to every single thing. So
Yeah.
mark out, what do you want to go with, and make sure you're standing there. You come a little bit early. You're standing there in that the hallway group. that's where you do the deals. That's where all the
Yep.
genius stuff happens and all the great, because you're building relationships.
Hmm.
I mean, Black Cranes, the book that got it, I mean, it swept the awards. That started because two editors were standing in a hallway, early, too early for the meeting, and they got to talking. Saw the anthologies about Asian women. Oh, we should do one. Here we go. Well, I've got two brimstone. So you know what I mean. It's like that really
Yeah.
works. That networking and relationship. I think another one is, and this is huge, and unfortunately, I'm seeing this a lot lately.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what I'll just use, "Don't be a jerk." The original quote is not quite as clean, but don't be a jerk. Don't think we have to present ourselves as professionals and successful. It's that whole, uh, you know, it's not smoke and mirrors, but we have to present our best selves because we want people to know we're professionals. But when we start drinking our own Kool-Aid of like how genius level we are and everything, and expecting people to kind of treat us that way for real, then that's when I think we start turning into a jerk. And
Yep.
that's a career ender. Nobody wants to work with jerks. You'll see people, yeah, it's people start avoiding you, then you don't want that. So don't be a jerk. It's like huge. And people can sniff out a jerk at these conventions and people talk. So be nice to the waiter because the next table over, somebody might talk to him and go, wow, that person over there treated you like a jerk. How does it make you feel?
Yep.
So just be nice to everybody, I think. Don't have FOMO.
You're always on
Huge.
stage when you're in those in-person
Hmm.
conferences, and to a certain extent the
Yeah.
virtual conferences. So yeah,
Hmm.
never take for granted any interaction that you have. That's so
Yeah.
true. I love and appreciate that you shared some of those do's and don'ts. Question for you, someone that's introverted like me that shows up to an in-person conference. I am petrified. I will see hundreds of people at a conference and I hear the advice you're giving me, Angela, and I go, all right, I'm in the hallway and I'm looking around. I don't know who to talk to, who to touch, probably touch nobody. Who to get in touch with was what I meant to say. I shouldn't probably touch anybody. Gosh, that's why I got booted out of the last conference. Um, but all
Don't
joking
do what
aside,
Dale just said, guys.
yeah, don't go around touching people. But what would you say is the best way for an introvert like me to break the ice, to get connected with other authors? Because obviously, I hear you saying there's value in the hallway. So how do I get out of my own way?
And I am an introvert. And I'm such a bad introvert. At one point in my life, I could not talk to people, like for real, could not talk to people or have a conversation.
Wow.
And the first thing that really, really helped me, where I could even get to where I am now, is realizing most of us feel that way. I think many more of us are introverts than we actually admit. And so we're all sitting here worried about what everybody thinks of us. But we're not actually even thinking about anybody else. We're just worried about how stupid do we sound? My outfit is like the worst ever, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So to get past that introvert thing, just recognizing somebody else and complimenting them. I know that sounds like the worst, lamest advice ever, but just coming up and saying, uh, you can even cheat a little bit and look them up on your phone. And I have done this. I probably shouldn't admit this, but I've done this. Somebody I want to talk to, I look up their books and then I say, I don't lie and say I read the book if I haven't, but I talk about it. Hey, aren't you? Well, I do know this because I just looked it up, but hey, aren't you so and so that published? Let me think. Such and such book, right? Isn't that your book? Yeah, that's on my read list. Well, it was like 3 seconds ago. Sure. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
guaranteed conversation opener.
Yeah.
And you can see their name on their name tag. And everybody pretty much has a book. So if you want to talk to somebody, ask a writer about their book and you got a friend for life. You know, another thing is I think having something to fiddle with. So when I do book
Mhm.
signings, not that I really do those anymore, I would hold origami frames and then I don't have to do the staring at people. Like, that thing where you're like, I'm staring at you because I want you to come over, but I don't want to stare at you too much because it's threatening. And
Yeah.
if I look away, though, you think I'm not interested. So I'm looking at you, but trying to not look at you. And then it just winds up being a really creepy collapse of everything.
Yeah.
So I would just fold paper cranes. and then it gives me something to kind of focus on, but also it attracts attention.
It brings in because they want
What
to
you
know what you're
doing?
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can give it to them. So I used to make out of old discarded books, I'd make that was my origami paper.
Mhm.
And then I could talk about it like, yeah, this is from a book. My book, I have not cut up for these. Ha 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 joke that I said like 50 million times. But da 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 da, and and so I just got to give them my pitch. We have that nice opening,
Mhm.
but I still do that at like conferences and stuff. Instead of giving out business cards, I've got these little 6-page origami books. So you can have your schedule on it. It's a one-page thing. You can print on your printer. A couple of folds and one cut. You're done. Super cheap. You can print them on the hotel printer
Mhm.
if you need to. Super easy. And those are really easy because you can be like, oh, I don't have a business card, but I have this book. It's got my schedule on it. It's got my bio on it. It's got the latest thing that I've got and how to reach me, and that's guaranteed. You're going to talk about that book for like 20 minutes and make a best friend. People collect those things. So those are like two things. I think having something fiddly and then talking to an author about their book, you cannot go wrong with those two things.
Yeah, by the way, a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, Dale doesn't go to talk to people out in the hallways." I do, folks. I'm very easy to pick out. Tall, orange, tall man, orange shirt. You're going to be able to pick me out. I just wanted to kind of share that. I am introverted, but I usually force myself. Although I love the idea of the origami. Typically, what I love to do is I'll camp out right outside of a presentation after it's done. There's my common ground. When someone comes through, be like, "Hey, what'd you think about that
Mm,
talk? I saw that you were sitting over there, the second row, or whatever," and that usually just
yeah.
breaks the ice and it gets things rocking and
Hmm.
rolling. It feels a little awkward at first, but at least it starts a conversation. So I want to shift
Yeah.
gears here
And they're
because,
probably grateful.
yeah, exactly. Because I'm sure whatever apprehensions you're feeling, they're feeling on the other end of those things too. So just being
Mhm.
that person who executes is going to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
All right, well, I wanted to shift gears here. You are the acting president of the Horror Writers Association. You've seen what works and doesn't for authors in the horror space. Are there marketing lessons here for all genres? Meaning, here inside the Authortunities newsletter, it's not just horror focused, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, it is actually multi-genre, and I consider myself a multi-genre author.
Mm-hmm.
I joke and say genre fluid because I actually came from nonfiction and I do poetry, and I actually have quite a few children's books out there which pay my bills that I never talk about because that's not my audience. But I pretty much write in almost all genres except for romance, which huge respect to romance writers. That is really well, I haven't done that one yet,
Yeah.
or a Western, I guess. But yeah, so I try to keep those opportunities available, like for the most people. Like there's something there for everybody, including nationalities, like Australia only, or English only, or Canadian only. And I try to keep them more for everybody, but I will include some of those because I have a lot of international readers.
You got to be keeping busy.
So,
I know for my newsletter, it takes me quite a while to kind of curate all the information and get it all boiled down. And
yeah.
you have a newsletter that's 20 times the size of mine. It's just incredible the amount of content you put out every week. It's impressive. So, with so
Thank
many
you.
platforms and strategies, how do you suggest authors avoid burnout while still being visible?
That, well, all right, I'm going to go back to like, say, if we're doing a newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
look at the core of what you're doing. FOMO will kill us thinking that we have to be all things to all the people. Find out who your readers are. Find out what your readers need. Those pain points. You hear people talk about pain points, and then just focus on that. You don't need all the other things. You don't need all the other platforms. Um, and so, in my case, I am actually my readers are typically writers that want to be published. So then I find out, what do writers who want to be published need? Well, we all have the same fears. Surprise. Well, we're about imposter syndrome. How to make money at this? Um, how do I not have burnout? It's the same things that we all have the same fears, desires, strength, all of that. So just address those things. When I started doing that, I was running like an insane person, just trying to catch all the things, every opportunity. Oh, I need to do that. I need to be on this podcast. I need to go to that podcast. I need to start a podcast and a video and a community and a, newsletter and social media 5 times a day and be on Mastodon for some reason and all the things. And then when it was like, okay, this is where I feel good, and I think that's a huge part of it, and this is where I feel strong, and everything else can just go away. And I think that's key. This is a longevity game. We're not gonna hit the ground and suddenly, I mean, I guess we could. I'm not gonna say we're not. You don't typically hit the ground, publish your first book, and then, you have international stardom and fame. Typically, we're publishing and we're publishing and we're publishing, and it's the consistency and it's the stamina. I'll say it like that. Just showing up every day to do this is going to be the biggest success. Probably the most boring thing I could ever say. I'm sorry, I don't have anything exciting like, oh, you just post on Twitter at 2 o'clock when it's a full moon.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's boring. Show up, have a good attitude. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Don't be a jerk.
I think it extends to all walks of business. You consistently show
Mhm.
up. Sure, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but if you just
Yeah,
stay consistent, it is a huge difference maker. You've given a lot of advice
yeah.
here over the past half hour. We're going to start to wrap things up. I've got one final question for you. That is, what advice do you have for authors and self-publishers out there right now?
Be flexible. Watch everything going on. There are so many things at play right now, from tariffs and AI and just, all kinds of things. There are so many things that do affect us. So just stay aware and stay flexible. Listen to Dale. Keep an eye on what Dale's doing. Keep an eye on things like writer beware, and we have community that teaches that tell us we don't have to know it all. We just have to be open to it all. And just be ready because there's a lot of changes that are happening. And I don't like to be aware, but not necessarily fear everything. Just because it's changing doesn't mean to be scared of it. Just learn about it.
For sure. Well, Angela, thank you so much for your time. How can people get a hold of you and find out more details about Authortunities?
Just go to Authortunities at substack.com. Pretty easy. You can also Google my name, AngelaYurikoSmith.com, but really just go to Opportunities.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to boot you on over into the green room. Hang out there for just a second. We're going to chat with the
Absolutely.
live viewers here shortly here. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in today. Definitely appreciate that. We are going to be having a great interview next week. A good close friend of mine, my writing mentor and editor, Jeannie DeVita Smith. Jeannie DeVita is going to be coming here next week. We're going to be talking about preparing your manuscript for editing. She's going to tell you everything you got to know. That's going to be next Monday on July the 21st, 6:15 p.m. Eastern Daytime. Till later, this has been Self Publishing with Dale, and I'll catch you next week.